Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host, Dennis Simpson, as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village. The award-winning RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village is the largest real estate office inside the village with over 30 full-time agents and support staff. Visit them to learn more about this beautiful place to solve your real estate needs. Call them today at 1-800-364-9007 or find them online at explorehsv.com. They are RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village at 1-800-364-9007 or online at explorehsv.com.
There we go. And we'll clip here in a minute and get going.
Okay.
I have followed up on you a little. I know a little bit about what you do. I don't know enough. I guarantee you that. So my curiosity will be genuine.
Okay.
Doing a show with the Lifelong Learning Institute with Mr. Larry Wilson, and that's on July the 22nd. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I'm prepping a lot of this for Randy. Give me the bio that you would want to use. I mean, Nashville songwriter, DJ, general funny guy,
Yeah, it's all of that. I mean, I'm from Missouri originally, a small town, but grew up pretty quickly and learned to play guitar at 16 and started singing. And then I got my first radio job when I was 18. So I'm a guy that's had a long songwriting career, a long music career, a long radio career. And a lot of that has happened at separate times. Sometimes it's been combined. And so pretty much the radio thing, pretty much ended that. And these days I am pretty much a full-time songwriter and a performing songwriter.
Okay.
And out on the road, which is why I'm talking to you today from Montrose, Colorado, because I'm out here with 4 other great Nashville songwriters.
Whoa. Don't give away too much.
Okay.
I want to record part of this back in the show. So
okay.
Let me go. Honestly, what I was doing there is I was giving prep for Randy to make show notes to make the sub lines.
Oh,
on.
I see.
And then when we get started here, so I usually start with a teaser, and I'm thinking the one that hits me is, what's the funniest country song you've ever heard or you've ever written? And just think on it a minute. Let that roll. And
well, yeah, there's, I make a living doing funny songs. So there's
don't tell me yet. Don't tell me yet, because
right.
I have to be surprised. Hello,
okay.
Surprise.
Okay. Well, you tell me when you're ready.
Okay, I'm going to give him a 3, 2. And with yet another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out, I'm Dennis Simpson. Randy wasn't able to join us today, but Mr. Bill Whyte is with us, and he's going to be in concert at the Lifelong Learning Institute at the Woodlands on the 22nd. And Bill, what's the funniest country song you've ever seen, heard, or written?
Well, I write a lot of funny songs, and the guy that I'm performing with at the Woodlands Auditorium, Brent Burns, he and I write a lot of funny songs together. And we had a song that both of us have recorded, and Cletus T. Judd also recorded, called I'm Going Ugly Early Tonight, which probably consistently gets the biggest laugh of anything that I could think of off the top of my head. And it's kind of a go-to song. You have to do it every show. But I've also written songs. In fact, I'm in Montrose, Colorado, and in the room next to me is a guy named Wood Newton, who wrote the song Bobby Sue for the Oak Ridge Boys and Riding with Private Malone. But he and I also wrote a song that I recorded called If You're Not Careful, My Wife's Gonna Leave You. So that's pretty funny too. So I'm a songwriter these days full time, and most of the stuff that I write is funny, but when I'm on stage, I've been blessed to have a gift of comedy, and I know how to make people laugh, and I know how to write funny songs. And Brent is very much built that way too. So the show they're going to see with Brent, even though he's considered what they call a trop rock artist these days, he's a beach singer. His 15 or 16 albums that he's recorded is a pretty good mix between beach songs and funny songs that we've written together. The two of us have probably co-written over 50 songs for his albums through the years. So we're old friends, and people will recognize that by the back and forth that goes on in the show that they're about to see.
Now, it's very clear to me also that trop rock, and people that haven't heard it, most people think of Jimmy Buffett and that kind of thing. But trop rock is really, it's coming along. And I'm trying to think of an artist that I listen to all the time. I've actually talked about booking him here in the Village. Goodness, why can't I think of his name? But he does I Need a Rum and Something.
Well, I'm not sure if I know that, but there's a lot of gifted guys. I mean, you're right. That genre is really growing.
Yeah.
And, people like Tom Shepard, who wrote some big hits, is down the trop rock movement, and Billy Dean, Billy Dean and Paul Overstreet. Paul's written some gigantic hits. The two of them just cut a trop rock song together, and Billy Dean just did a full out trop rock album, that's coming out. So bigger and bigger artists are starting to get into that movement, and they have an organization. Every year there's an award show in Key West, Florida, where they pass out awards in a theater, and it's organized, and there are all those people that love Jimmy Buffett and all the people that love the beach and all the people that are parrot heads. They just flock to these concerts all over the United States, and the parrot head chapters are built, and the entertainers can just go from pretty much from beach to beach to beach, or even an inland beach where people have a beach in their backyard.
Really?
As my friend Brent Burns sings about. So it's built a whole tour and a whole genre of its own that's really, really fun.
Donnie Brewer was the guy I was thinking about, and he has some hysterical, I mean, not just, I guess what I'm trying to get here, and I know you're in this same genre of sort, and that is the funny song. It's not going to make it as a top 10. It's probably rarely going to be top 40 or even top 100, but they're so enjoyable. If you're not careful, my wife is going to leave you. Now that's a funny song now.
Yeah. Yeah. And Donnie's kind of go-to song is Skinny Beer.
Yeah. Skinny Beer. Dang old Skinny Beer.
Yeah. There ain't no skinny beer. And Donnie's, and a lot of these guys, I mean, Donnie can do a lot of comedy, but he's a really great artist. Period. Yeah. But you're right. There's all of these internet radio stations. Of course, Jimmy Buffett has Radio Margaritaville, and so that's where that music kind of goes. It goes in that direction for people to hear it, And there are more and more of those kind of stations evolving too, so that the guys that play and write that kind of music have a place to get their songs exposed.
Well, and on one hand, as you and I were growing up, there was the media, and that was where you heard these songs. That was the only way to go, and
or just terrestrial radio. It went to
exactly. And I had to explain to my lovely wife, who's 4 years younger than me. Okay. I'm turning 60 this week. She's 4 years younger. And I had to explain what payola was. And she was like, I know. And she was like, you're telling me that people would pay people to play something on the radio? I'm like, oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. You play it enough times, it's a hit.
Right. Yeah. And that makes your career, and all of a sudden you're making large money playing concerts because now people know who you are. It's not really that there's not that there's payola involved, but it's no different than today what the kids are trying to do on TikTok. They're just trying to get popular enough to monetize being an influencer or an artist or whatever they are. And honestly, I certainly know in Nashville, a lot of the record labels are signing, they're more about signing kids that have 100,000 followers already of their own. So if you can build that kind of loyal fan base on any social platform these days, you can all of a sudden become an artist that can, just consider if you've got 100,000 fans on your TikTok or your Facebook, or, I'm just now starting to get off of MySpace, so I'm a little behind. But, if you can get that many followers, well, good grief. If you've got a brand new album or a new song you want to promote, just put it up on that network and let them know it's available. And you've got 100,000 fans available to buy. And it also allows you to book concerts at the same time, because now all of a sudden you're popular. Back in the day, they would slip money under the table to a radio disc jockey, to get them to play the record, because if you could get enough spins, all of a sudden you're a star. So,
well, is that how you made your millions, Bill? I mean,
I wish I could say, I'm old enough that could have happened, but I never got approached. And then of course they really, quote unquote, have done away with payola, but it's just gotten more creative.
I think
likely to happen today is if a record label is trying to break an artist, they'll contact the key program directors or the decision makers that decide what songs go on a radio station.
Right.
It's more like, hey, this artist of ours is doing their album premiere in Jamaica. Would you like to come and hear and be a part of that. So they
free
get
round trip tickets to Jamaica. We're not going to pay you anything. That would be illegal.
No,
but we're going to make a great vacation. I mean, tour for you to go see, right?
Exactly. You got to be creative.
Yeah. Well, let's go back here a minute.
Incidentally, if you have anybody listening that would like to pay me, I'll give you my email address later.
Send that check care of Bill Whyte. That's W-Y-T-H-E. Is that correct?
W-H-Y-T-E.
Y-T-E. And just any denomination. Is that what I understand?
I'll even barter. I'll send a cow.
Really? Will you now?
Yeah. I could use a chicken.
So let's go back. You were born a small child. Let's hear the rest of it.
I was born in a little town called Montgomery City, Missouri, and learned to play guitar chord when I was 16, and had a band at about that time. And then at 18, I got my first radio job in a one-bedroom cow pasture radio station, KPCR Radio, Bowling Green, Missouri, which stood for Cow Pasture Country Radio.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Cow Pasture Country Radio.
Get Cow Pasture Country Radio. And we went from a trailer to a barn when I was a kid. And the barn still stands today and houses another radio station. I was just back and did a big sold-out concert in Louisiana, Missouri, where the first song I ever recorded was called Momo, the Missouri Monster, as a kid. And that song will not die. And the sightings of the Bigfoot will not die in that little town. And it's become a thing. And they just celebrated the 50th anniversary of that story and the song. And I went back and sang that song after 50 years. And it was just, they had a monster going through the dance hall. It was just, St. Louis Post-Dispatch came out and did a feature article they just released on it. So that was my first break into show business all those years ago. And then I got into major market radio, and I did morning shows in Cincinnati for a lot of years.
Whoa, hang on. Those of you that are listening to this podcast and not having the pleasure of viewing it, I'm going to tell you what Bill's shirt says right now. Bill, stand up.
I never even thought about that. I'm wearing that shirt right there.
The Louisiana Historical Museum. Now, I would think that would be in the state of Louisiana, but it's Louisiana, Missouri.
Missouri.
Moo. Is that how it's pronounced? The Momo. But it looks like a moo.
Like the Missouri, like M-O Missouri, Momo.
The Momo monster.
The Momo, the Missouri monster, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I'm sorry. From there, and then you said Bowling Green, Missouri.
Yeah, that's where I got my first radio job, and then my band. I always played in band and backed up big artists, so I had this combination career, and then my radio career really took off in Cincinnati when I got a morning show there. Almost, it's too long a story to tell, but almost by accident, wound up on that morning show for a lot of years, and went to Milwaukee, went to Indianapolis, and then finished my radio career in Nashville here not too long ago, and finished it at a radio station that I always wanted to work at when I was a kid growing up in Missouri, and that's WSM Radio in Nashville, which is the home of the Grand Ole Opry.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that. We insure millions, right? Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Yeah, we insure millions. Yeah. And now, for the last 13, 14, 15 years, I've been a serious songwriter and have a publishing deal, and I write songs every day. And then I'm out on the road, some by myself, and I'm out on the road with two different trios. One is called Evening in the Round, which has Linda Davis, who's a Grammy winner.
Whoa! Hang on, is that the Linda Davis that sang with Donnie? Give Me the Keys.
No, that's not.
Is that not the same Linda? I may
at least not to my knowledge. No, I don't think Donnie knows her. I don't think, but Linda sang "Does He Love You" with Reba McEntire.
Oh, really?
And he got the Grammy for that. And her husband is a talented singer named Lang Scott. And one of their daughters is Hillary Scott with Lady A. So
really.
So I sing with Linda and her husband in a show called Evening in the Round, and we tour and play theaters. And then I'm in a second trio that has actually played the Woodlands called Hits and Grins, which has songwriter Steve Dean and Victoria Veneer as part of that. Now, so my career is all over the yard musically, because I go and play with those two trios. I play some on my own. And then here over the last couple of years or so, I've got more involved in the trop rock movement. And in fact, this year, I'm going to be the MC for the entire week in Key West, Florida.
Really? Well, now I've got to ask, because, everybody's screaming about diversity these days, and I don't want this to come across wrong, but I mean, are you the token old guy? Because I think we need somebody to do that job.
You know what? As long as the check cashes, I'll be whoever they want me to be. I'll be Momo, the Missouri Monster, if they want me to be. I'm versatile. Whatever
what are we going to hear at the concert here in Hot Springs Village?
Well, because it's Brent, you're going to get to hear a fair amount of trop rock music, certainly some beach songs. And Brent's just got some great, just great catchy beach songs that he's done through the years. He and I had the trop rock song of the year a few years ago that we wrote together. That's called "Don't Come a Knockin' If a Tiki Hut's a Rockin'," and I'm sure we're going to be doing that. But and I'll tell you a funny story. The first time I met my friend was in Gulf Shores, Alabama, which is where he lives, and I go there a lot. He plays at a place called Lulu's that Jimmy Buffett's sister owns down there, and has for a long while. But we had a mutual friend who was down there one time when my wife and I were there, and she said, "Bill, I think you need to meet this guy. You need to go out and hear him." So she took me to hear Brent for the first time. And when I heard him sing to the tourists, "If it's snowbird season, why can't we shoot them?" I thought, now this is a guy I want to be writing songs with. And so we have become the very best of friends, and the ribbing that goes on stage is so funny back and forth. And it's just, so you're going to hear a lot of funny stuff for sure. And you're going to hear a lot of beach music, and you're going to hear some of the songs that I've written for other artists, that you'll know too. So it's a great mix.
So now, where does Cletus T. Judd come in here? Because I didn't know you were associated with anybody that famous. So don't get me wrong, but
yeah, people are always surprised that anybody famous will let me near them. So you're not the first to catch that. Actually, my first real cut in Nashville was Cletus, and it was a complete accident. This is sort of how Nashville works sometimes. I was watching the CMA Awards show one night, and it was a year that, for whatever reason, the producers of the show decided it would be a great idea to run dancers out with people like Alan Jackson and Leanne Womack. And I thought, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I picked up my guitar and I wrote a verse and a chorus of a song called "If George Strait Starts Dancing, Somebody Shoot Me in the Head." And the next day I was on Music Row, and I have a friend who's a producer, and I went in to see him, and I said, "Hey, let me play you this thing I've kind of written. See, tell me if you think this is funny." And he laughed. He said, "Yeah." He said, I think that's really funny." He said, "Give it to me." And it wasn't even finished. And the next day he called me and said, "I think I got your song recorded." And I said, "What?" And he said, "Yeah, I walked it over to Cletus T. Judd's office, and they want to write another verse and a chorus." So he and his producer wrote another verse and a chorus, and he recorded it. And that was my first recording. And since then, I've had a total of 5 songs that Cletus has recorded of mine.
Really?
And one of them is a song that Brent and I wrote that you'll hear. "I'm Going Ugly Early" tonight at the concert. And that was another wonderful story. Brent was in Nashville doing the Big D and Bubba show live for, I guess they let their standards down that they allowed him on the radio.
Apparently, was it like a Tuesday or something, or what?
It must have been. But anyway, he's on and he sings our song live, "I'm Going Ugly Early" tonight on their show. And their phone rings, and it's the folks at Koch Records, which was Cletus's record label, saying, "Who is that? And can we get a copy of the song?" And so we sent it to him, and Cletus recorded that song on an album. So I've had 5 cuts by Cletus, and then I've been blessed to have a great Joe Nichols cut, and Ray Stevens recorded a song that Brent and I wrote called "Retired" that we'll definitely do at the show.
Yeah.
And then probably my biggest, I've had a lot of good luck in the bluegrass world and gospel world, but my biggest, for me personally, is a song that Hillary Scott of Lady A and the Scott family that I just mentioned, Linda Davis, Lang Scott, and her youngest daughter, Riley Jean, recorded a contemporary Christian album called "Love Remains" that they dedicated to their grandfather who died of cancer, Hillary's grandfather. Yeah. And so they sent me a note about they were doing this album. And so Jimmy Fortune, who used to be with the Statler Brothers, and Sidney Perry, who's out with Carrie Underwood, and I sat down and wrote a song about him specifically called "Safe Haven." And we sent it to the family, and Hillary sang the lead on it. They recorded it. Ricky Skaggs produced the album, and the album won 2 Grammy Awards. So I got a Grammy certificate on my wall from that contemporary Christian song. So I think that's one of the things people experience, Dennis, when they see me, is they quickly pick up that I'm the funny guy normally in the shows, and they know they're going to get a laugh from me. But what they don't know is I also have songs tucked like that in my catalog that I can also do in the show. And a lot of times you'll look out and there's not a dry eye in the house when you do a song like that, because people relate to losing somebody in their family and can relate to the song. So it's a myriad of emotions in a show like that. My friend Brent Burns is a Purple Heart recipient. I'm out in Montrose, Colorado, writing songs with veterans, which is a real honor right now. In fact, there are 4 other great songwriters with me, and tonight we're going to do a big concert in an amphitheater, and all those veterans will be out in front of us with American flags. and their family members will be gathered at this open concert, and all 5 of us songwriters will sing the individual songs we wrote with our veterans yesterday. And it's so moving, I can't even tell you how moving that is.
But I've got to ask a favor, and we haven't known each other long, like 25 minutes maybe. Would you send some pictures, please? Take some pictures from stage, and I'd love to see that. That's got to be amazing.
And just try to remember this, and anybody that might be listening to, the organization I write for is called Freedom Sings USA. And if you go to freedomsingsusa.org, or just type in Freedom Sings USA on the Facebook, you'll be able to pick up pictures, and you'll also be able to see the private concert that we did last night for just the veterans, and invited family members where those songs, we played them for the first time.
We will definitely link to those. I promise we will have those.
Yeah, you get to see the veteran sitting right next to the songwriter while they're singing it.
Wow,
it's
really
cool.
Oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. Now, I've followed up on Chris Jensen. It'll buy me a boat, right?
Chris Jensen, yeah.
Yeah, done a lot of research on him, and moved from Missouri, much like you, went to Nashville in his Monte Carlo, slept in the parking lot, played at what is it? Lulu's? No, it's Lulu's. It's
well, he played Lower Broadway. I know that's where he cut his teeth.
Yeah. Well, he said that he went to Cracker Barrel, that he was just barely making ends meet, and he went to Cracker Barrel and found a kid's harmonica and learned to play it in the taxi on the way back to Broadway. And then he found that his tips tripled when he played the harmonica. So he learned to play the harmonica quite well and quite quickly. And my point being the number of people that go to Nashville that are unbelievably talented.
Yeah.
The pool. I mean, how do you ever stick out? How do you ever get a chance like that with Cletus Judd or whatever? I know we're talking subgenres. That's not a main genre. I got it, but still.
Well, Cletus is a major artist. He was on Warner Brothers for years. So yeah, it's hard. That part is really hard. And they, everybody says that the big moniker of Nashville is it's a 10-year town, which means it's going to take you 10 years before you ever have any success. That you really have to dig in and network and get to know people. And for the people that are making that leap of faith that they've got enough talent to catch a break and maybe make a living at it, I think you've got to be so eaten up with it, Dennis, that you can't not go. I think that's the only way that works. And that means when you come to town, you need to take a job waiting tables or finding another job to pay your bills, because music is not likely to do that for a long while until you bust your butt and make enough connections, and one door opens to another and to another and to another. And then if you're lucky, one day some guy you play a song for walks it across the street and an artist records your song. It's very much it's probably no different than in the rest of the business world. This is very much a networking world. It's who you know. And even trying to get a song to a recording artist, I always tell people the easiest part of songwriting is writing the song. The hard part is getting anybody to listen to it.
Really?
Because those are protected emails and you have to have permission. And so you have to get to know people before you can just personally send them a song to listen to for an artist. And that's really hard. It's difficult, but you just have to dig in. You have to come and be in the middle of it and get out and see the shows and do the songwriter things and shake hands. And one door, like I said, leads to another if you're lucky. And you have to have patience and hopefully a little talent to go with it. So then what's the old phrase, when preparation meets opportunity? Preparation meets opportunity. Yeah, it's kind of that. So.
Yeah, well, and it's just like with Chris Jensen, it took about 10 years. Dolly Parton took you 10 years. People don't want to hear that part of thing. If you have a decade when you're waiting tables and trying to I guess the point I would say is that not only is there an inordinate amount of people that are unbelievably talented there, but everybody that walks in the door is unbelievably driven too, because they're all convinced, well, I've got the magic ticket. I've just got to convince it. And I think everybody also thinks, and those that will follow me here, you'll know exactly where I'm going. I think a lot of people think you just sign up at the Bluebird and, exactly. Then Vince Gill or Garth Brooks or somebody just happens to hear you. And it doesn't happen that way, I don't believe.
Yeah, well, sometimes it happens, but usually it's after a while. I mean, Dierks Bentley played, a lot of artists played in those honky tonks in Broadway, and word got out, and maybe a record label person would walk in to check out the noise that they're hearing about. Lady A showcased it at a place and they got signed to Capitol Records. And so that does happen, but it doesn't happen overnight, and when your opportunity comes for when the right person is in the crowd, you want to make sure that you're ready, that you're ready for that. So it's not for the faint of heart. It's not for people that can't accept rejection, because about 98% of being a songwriter is rejection. You have to get used to that and just dust it off and just keep pushing on walls and trying to get your break. And obviously it doesn't work out for people, and people come in on the bus and people leave on the bus. And it's certainly, if there's anyone thinking about it, I don't think I could stress enough that it's not, you can't be my age and start a career for the most part. It's about the young, country music, just talking about country music, I don't think it's any different than others. It's as much about what hits your eyes as what hits your ears. So they're looking for young kids that are good looking, not completely, but if you look at the charts and you look at who's having the hits, just take a look at what you're seeing and what you're up against, and that should drive you, because if you see whatever is on the radio right now or what they're playing on video, that's your challenge.
Yeah.
And you get yourself good enough so that when your song goes on the desk of a person making a decision, is it competitive with what's working, so.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, let's face it, Lyle Lovett would be one of the lower common denominators. I mean, you got to be, and you're right.
Now that's an interesting, that's the other side of the coin, Dennis.
Yeah.
You can't ignore real talent. Chris Stapleton's another example.
Oh yeah. Wow.
How can you deny that voice? I don't care if he looked like a 4,000-pound elephant on stage.
Yeah, but the songwriting too. The songwriting's fantastic. He has incredible songs.
So talented. A lot of people like that. There is undeniable talent that you and I and almost anybody else can go, I don't know how long it's going to take, but that person is going to be a star. And usually that's the case. So. Well,
I just heard a song this last week with Old Dominion.
Oh yeah.
Who is it? I love I was on a boat that day. I think that's hysterical.
Yeah.
But in that same album, they recorded one, If You're Ever on the Lonesome Side of Town. And I'm thinking it wasn't Roberta Flack. It was another Black, basically soul singer. And so you're seeing, and to me, you're seeing country just interweave in everything. And let's face it, a lot of country is interwoven with rap these days. It's every genre of everything. And as much as people would decline or deny it, country music is the medium that's what you hear on the radio, period.
Still the most popular format. And you're right, Dennis, what has happened, it's no, when I started in radio, for God's sake, I was playing 45 RPM records and moved through cartridge tapes and into the digital world. And music is no different either. It's moved forward. It's not your daddy's country music anymore, whether you like it or not. It's for a younger demographic. And the kids that listen to country music now, in the prime demographic of whatever it is these days, 25 to 34 maybe. Mm-hmm. Well, those kids grew up with, Boys to Men and NSYNC and rap music, and the artists, a lot of the artists that come into the country music genre now also listen to all that music. So that goes into what they like and the music they write, and it appeals to their demographic. So there are certainly less and less and less George Straits and people that are of that old, what we consider
old school
to be country music. Country music changes, it moves,
Well, and now they call it classic country. I'm like, who knew, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I tell you what, one of the finest CMT presentations I ever saw in my life was Chris Stapleton and Timberlake.
Well, that was a CMA moment when
that was a CMA. I'm sorry. Yeah. CMA.
Yeah,
oh,
that
Lord.
was an undeniable moment. Yeah.
Oh my Lord. Oh my Lord. And I think Justin put it exactly as it should be. Memphis meets Nashville. And I mean, when you saw the top 50, the top 40, excuse me, country artists in the world sitting on the front 3 rows, rocking their butts off, going, "This is great," and thoroughly being entertained. You don't see that every day. That's
what I was saying about it. That was an undeniable moment.
Yeah.
Because Chris Stapleton paid his dues, and everybody knew about Chris Stapleton because of his voice. He was with the Steel Drivers, which was a phenomenal bluegrass group. And if you ever heard them, he'd just blow you down. So he was playing bluegrass music, And then when that moment happened with Justin Timberlake to that big an audience, and Chris Stapleton did his thing, the next week the song took off, and Chris Stapleton's a star. And
he was a different person. Well, and here's the deal. Before that award show, I don't know that I'd heard of him, maybe a couple of times on the radio, but he was beginning to rise. But that particular event, now it's the commonality across the world. You know, everybody knows what that is.
If you like Chris Stapleton, go to YouTube and pull up the Steel Drivers, Bluegrass,
Steel
Chris
Drivers.
Stapleton in it, and you'll hear some things will just knock your socks off. It's not commercial country stuff, but it's bluegrass, and it's so good. It's just
Man, Bill, I tell you what, here's what we need to do. If I can, you understand that we're doing this because you're coming to Hot Springs Village, and we're gonna do that. Do we do a follow-up interview with you a little later on?
Anytime you want to, yeah.
Man, I'd love to. Because the depth of
just don't forget that payola thing.
I tell you what, I'm not going to forget it at all. I don't have any money in that account, but I'm not going to forget it because I remember it thoroughly. Because I mean, who else is going to say they know the Moo monster? I mean, hello, right?
Momo.
Momo. You know, the funny part about that is that's what everybody called my grandmother. I mean, just me. Everybody called my grandmother Momo. So
really,
yeah, you'd think I would have got that. Yeah, wow. But it was MOU because she wasn't from Missouri. Maybe that's the problem.
Gotcha.
Okay, what time's the show start? Do you know?
Man,
I want to say it's 7 or 7:30.
I think it's 7 o'clock. I know. Yeah. And I know they've sold a lot of tickets too, but they still got about 120 tickets or so in that beautiful auditorium.
And this is going to be the Woodlands. It's about 565 people there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's first come, first serve. So if you want to be there early to get down front, people, this is your chance.
Yep.
And you can buy those
tickets.
It is
a 7 o'clock concert.
It's 7 your time. Okay.
I'm sorry, say it again.
7 your time. Is that right? Or 7 o'clock when it begins?
7 o'clock. It's 7 o'clock Hot Springs time. Yeah.
And that's the Lifelong Learning Institute. I don't know if we can get the tickets at hsvtickets.com, but I'll check. But
I know you can go to the website has got a link for tickets too if you want to buy it online.
Okay.
Go to
okay. And let's give another plug here, Bill. Bill WYTE.
No, WHYTE.
WHYTE.
Yeah, just like Whyte with the Y.
Right, but billwide.com, and we'll have the link below here on the video. But that actually will go, and that'll show where other places where you're playing too. If somebody's in another part of the country, and it looks like, you're going to be back in Cincinnati and some other places I saw the other day.
Well, we got this little run with Brent. We're actually playing Hot Springs on that Thursday night, and then we go to Sullivan, Missouri, and play a Parrot Head house concert the following night. And then I'm trying to think the week after that, I actually go down to Gulf Shores, and I'm doing a show in Pensacola with Brent that following week. And then I'm doing a comedy show in Mobile, Alabama with a lady over there. Then we do a Songwriters Festival it's Songwriter Festival time when we do a lot of those too. So we go to Gatlinburg for one in August, Port St. Joe, Florida in October, Gulf Shores, Alabama in November. And in between that, California and Illinois and Indiana, and it's a pretty busy calendar coming up for sure.
Is it a frequent flyer mile thing, or is it a Winnebago thing?
A few. But again, the website it's a brand new website. We just redid it, so go check it out. It's actually Bill WHYTE Bill Whyte comedy.com.
Oh, okay, sure. I hadn't got that link. I'd like to see that. Well, I tell you what, Bill, for Hot Springs Village Inside Out, it's been a pleasure having you, and I promise we're coming back around to interview you again. For Hot Springs Village Inside Out, I'm sorry.
That's it. Just let me know when, and folks, please get your ticket. You'll enjoy the show. I promise.
It sounds like we will. Honestly, when we started this, I was like, so. Last night I told Diane, I said, yeah, we're getting tickets. We'll be there. We'll be near the front row.
You'll have a great time. I promise.
If you like humor and you like to laugh, this will be your opportunity.
Absolutely.
Bill, it's been a pleasure. For Hot Springs Village Inside Out, I'm Dennis Simpson, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Please subscribe to the podcast. You can do that by visiting our website, hsvinsideout.com, and tell a friend.